Okay. All right. We're here at season 2, episode 7 of the Dawg Talk podcast. I'm Butler Insider Akeem Glaspie here with my new co-host. I guess you're still technically a new co-host, Aaron Ferguson, and we have something positive to talk about today. Sometimes the season can get a little negative, but Butler had a big win over Seton Hall. I guess I'll let you start, Aaron. What are some of your initial thoughts from the win over Seton Hall last night?
Yeah, it's funny. I was sitting there watching the first half, in which they eventually climbed to a 31-point lead before the half, and I was like everything I saw the night before watching IU at Wisconsin, I felt like was being replicated to a degree. Uh, Except this time it was Butler who was on the winning side of that. It was just so funny to see. I don't know, kind of very similar games in the way they played out. Butler was just drilling three-pointer after three-pointer. They were getting all the loose balls. They really just dominated Seton Hall, who I know they were shorthanded a little bit, but yeah, I mean, just an impressive win. I think it really showed what Butler can be. There's been a lot of games that they've been in. Marquette, UConn. Like, there's been a lot of games that they've been in that it's like, okay, are they eventually going to pull one of these out? And I think what last night was a reminder that this Butler team is pretty good. They're just missing maybe a piece or two, and that piece or two may be Augusto Cassia or Jamie Kaiser Jr., who have not been dressing of late. And so just an all around great first half, especially, but a great win for Butler. And I think on the broadcast, they talked a lot about how they were still very positive. They were still upbeat, but this has to add a little proof to the pudding, if you will.
Yeah, and I mean another one of the standouts was Bowden Kapke. It's oddly they were playing through him early in the first half, and he was able to match his I believe he had 11 in the first half, and ended with 13, tying his career high, 11 rebounds for a double double. And that you talk about missing pieces, and that a stable big has kind of been one of the main pieces they've been missing, especially with the Gusto out. And yeah, to see that performance from Bowden has to be very kind of just reassuring for the team, because Andre Screen is a great big. I talked about him in my insider heading into the week. He's one of the most efficient scorers in the low post, but at the same time, you don't want him playing, 25, 30 minutes. So the positive minutes they got from Bowden was key. And then you mentioned the 3-point shooting. Patrick and Finley both had 3-pointers in the first half. And again, kind of what I wrote heading into the game is, and I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but if they were to get hot, that's kind of what it looks like. It's just Patrick draining threes and kind of stretching the floor, and Finley just letting it fly and shooting with confidence. And I guess I'll just go into it. I mean, I spoke to Finley the other day, and he just talked about, his confidence. At one point over Christmas break, he went back for a couple of days, talked to his family, and then he's on campus Christmas Day just working out. He spent some time with his family, but at the end of the day, he just kind of had to just reset and refocus. And you're kind of seeing that with the way he's been playing of late. He's just kind of adding an element that they really need with another shooter. So that's really good to see. And I know you wrote something about Finley, kind of he's a cult hero now. Just what are your kind of thoughts on watching Finley play over the last couple of games?
He's been a lot of fun to watch because he just does a lot of things well. He's not afraid to get in there and muck it up and fight for a rebound or a loose ball, but he doesn't look like the typically quick or elite quickness that a point guard would have to get by somebody, but he uses his step back game so well to get open. He hit that step back three against UConn. This is going back a couple of weeks, but I was just so impressed with that because I was like, whoa, like he's not afraid to take the big shot in big moments late in the game. And so, again, that wasn't really needed last night. They were dominating, but he brings value in so many ways because he still can pass and set people up. He can go down and get you a rebound. He's directing the offense well without having just great quickness. And he ended up on ESPN for Butler was part of bad beats, not the fact that they lost. That was the bad part of the beat, but they lost by 3 when Georgetown was favored by 3.5, and Finley had 2 critical layups that Scott Van Pelt was easy and quick to point out, and fans on Twitter were also maybe not Butler fans, but fans with vested interest, I'll just say, to point out. But yeah, he's so much fun to watch. I think you can see the passion he plays with as well. His ability to shoot, though, has really just been amplified over the past couple of weeks since he's been in the starting lineup. And yeah, he has been terrific and fun to watch.
Yeah, and again, that element is something that they need. And again, talking to Finley, again for a story that I'm working on, he said he just had to, find himself again and play like Finley Bizjack. I know it sounds like weird to refer to yourself in third person, but his version of point guard might not be the traditional point guard. He scored almost 2,000 points in high school. He came to Butler with the reputation as a scorer, but he can run the show, like you said. He can lead an offense, but his version of point guard might not necessarily be the traditional point guard that players are used to seeing. With M. Butler, especially last year with the Posh Alexander, who was kind of the definition of a floor general defensive leader. It's not going to be the same with Finley, but I think they're learning to adapt to his style. And Patrick McCaffrey also just added another element against Seton Hall, just bombing away from 3. He's someone who I know you're somewhat familiar with, and he reshaped his game. Both Finley and Patrick shooting around 40% from 3. Just what's it like seeing the growth of Patrick into this 3-point marksman?
Yeah, it's weird because what I remember when he was at Iowa was just a lot of screening. Like I just felt like he was the guy who was always screening to then either roll or pop out, and he wasn't. Not that he's ball dominant here, but it just seems like he has the ball in his hands more here. And they just use him in a different way. And yeah, to be a 3-point marksman like his brother Connor was at Iowa, after what Patrick did at Iowa, which was fine. I'm not saying good or bad, but man, his scoring really does add a different element.
Yeah, and you mentioned Connor. I spoke to Connor as well, and just kind of learning what it takes to transform. I believe he shot the best he shot in a full season. Patrick was around 32% from 3, and now he's around 40. And just talked about the work it takes in that. It was kind of a conscious effort to transform his game. Patrick's goal is to play pro next year, so you have a 6'9" shooter who can again attack the basket and handle the ball. And he needed to fill a role at Butler as well with DJ Davis transferring to Washington. So there was a kind of a hole there in terms of perimeter shooter. So Patrick adapted his game, and I spoke to Connor. He's really big on the player development side. He credits John Diebler as well, former Ohio State legend who's also on staff, just with the work they did to put in to kind of help transform Patrick's game. So that's 2 stories I'm working on that'll be in the pipe a little bit next week. But yeah, it was good to see. And Thad, talking to Thad after the game, he said they have to score. I think this team's strength will never be defense, but if they can score like that, he said it can get contagious, and it can, if they can get hot, that can be contagious. And again, that's kind of what I wrote heading into the week, that this is what it needs to look like. You need the bombing away from 3s. You need Andre Screen scoring, and something else I talked to Thad about is Pierre Brooks. He kind of was settling for a lot of 3s. He has NBA range, but he was kind of settling a lot, and you saw him get downhill a little bit more and kind of use his body to get into the paint and move some furniture around there, and that's kind of good to see. So what do you think of Butler getting hot? And obviously, like I said, the chances of earning an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament is probably gone. But for them to get hot, what does that look like to you in your mind?
It looks like last night. That's the easiest way to put it. But I don't, the games are going to get a lot more tougher. Seton Hall was down 3 key players, and Shaheen Holloway, as great of a coach he is, it's hard to overcome that. And so Butler, you got to turn the page, and you've really got to. I think the schedule is a little bit lighter than what it had been. UConn isn't on the schedule. Marquette's not on the schedule. And so you've got St. John's and Creighton, I think, still to play again. And but they really have an opportunity here to get some positive momentum heading into the Big East tournament. But yeah, kind of like you mentioned and what Thad said, is a lot of it is going to have to be hot shooting. And to Patrick's credit, he was, if you look at his last 26 3-point shots, this is over 6 games. If you look at his last 26 3-point shots, those first 3 games, 3 for 13. The last 3 games, 8 for 13. And that's been a world of a difference for Butler. I mean, last night too, I think one of the things that was a recurring theme as I was watching, especially the first half again, Jameel Telfort didn't score. And you wrote after the Marquette game that Marquette showed what Butler needs by uplifting Cam Jones, who was battling foul trouble. And last night, that's what Butler did. They let Telfort, well, I'm not going to say they let him rest, but they let him take a back seat and said, "Hey, we've got you. We're gonna take the load here." And that was, I think that's a really positive development for him. That's probably hidden in all this of a 30-point win.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the final line looks okay. You know, he finished with 12 points, but you're right. All 12 of those points come in the second half, and they really didn't need him, which is crazy. I mean, they won by 30 points, so you could say they really didn't need him, and that's something I never thought I'd be able to say with the way that this team has been playing. And you're right. Even on the broadcast, they mentioned that third player, you know, kind of Jameel and Pierre have been your 2 constants, but if it's Patrick or Finley or Bowden or Andre, just if they can get a consistent third scoring effort from, you know, some other player, then this team is going to be it's just a different team. And while they might not have, you know, great depth, they have some depth where, you know, someone else is capable of stepping up, and they showed that. And you're right, that's good to see that they can uplift Jameel, because he shoulders a lot of load. He has broad shoulders, but they put a lot on his plate. He's kind of the primary ball handler. He does a lot of work in the paint, a lot of the dirty work. So to have, you're right, him not have a night off, but just he didn't have to carry the team was good to see. And yeah, so a good win, their first road win in 68 days. It's kind of crazy to think that the outlook of this team heading from Arizona is completely different than where they are now. But you're right, some positivity, some confidence, and just, yeah, it's good to see. Yeah, that's pretty much all we have. What are you looking forward to see against Providence? They have Providence, and they have a week off before their next game at home against Georgetown. Back-to-back home games. Just what do you think this team can do with one game and some time off?
That's funny because I was just going to put that question on you. I think you need to see much of the same Saturday. You just want to see them come out and play free in the offense. I think that was a key part. You know, you mentioned they went to Bowdoin early, and I think they knew they had a size advantage down low against Seton Hall. That was apparent, even when 7'1" Andre Screen wasn't in the game. And so I'm curious to see how they attack Providence a little bit differently. Providence lost last night to Creighton, the game after Butler there for the doubleheader. But no, I think you just want to play free flowing. I want to see how the offense looks. Is that balance still there? Is everyone hitting shots? Are they hustling for loose balls? Are they doing the little things? I know turnovers have been an issue. Are they limiting those? Are they protecting the ball? I think those are all going to be the keys to this team riding the ship and making a run in March, or making a run to March, to hopefully make a run in March, I guess, to play well in the Big East tournament. And it's you have to remember, this team led UConn. They led Marquette. Like, they have played with the best in this conference. And so they just need to continue to play with that confidence. I think if they're really in a positive spot, which it sounds like they are from everything I hear from you and what they said. I think it was Phil Martelli on the broadcast last night. So, yeah, just come out, play free, play with confidence. You're at home. Use the crowd, lean into it. Hopefully the roads are okay by then. And, yeah.
Yeah, I think free flowing is kind of the correct term there. You know, when they're free flowing, when they're moving the ball around the perimeter, making that extra pass, the offense just looks so beautiful. It's kind of the way I describe it. It's so fun to watch when everyone's playing with confidence, and then they have these stretches where they just go ice cold. And we saw Seton Hall fall into one of those where, yeah, if one team's shooting threes and the other team is not, it gets ugly really fast. So you're right. If Butler can just continue to play free, and I will add add that Phil Martelli and John Fana, they dropped some great one-liners. I think John Fana said that his prom date blocked him on social media. That was pretty funny. Fran McCaffrey, known as White Magic, just some gems. So that was kind of something that I definitely noticed during the broadcast. So yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, I think Phil Martelli had the Georgetown game too, and I've always heard these great stories about him, and have never had a chance to meet him, and really haven't listened to him. I think those were the first 2 games I've listened to him, and holy smokes, he is great. He just has so many great stories. Oh my gosh, that was. I'm glad that the game was out of hand, that they could just kind of lean into like having fun and telling stories like that, because that, as a viewer experience, that was great.
Definitely. Well, that's all we have for our listeners today. This has been Dawg Talk, and we'll see you guys next time.